Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving into a really high-stakes legal dispute today. It kind of defines the modern creator economy, actually. It centers on one of YouTube's biggest names, SSSniperwolf, right? Lia Shelesh. She has this absolutely massive audience, like 35 million YouTube subscribers. And this deep dive is really about trying to understand how a relationship, 9 years long, both personal and professional, can just unravel into a legal claim for, well, ownership of the entire digital empire. The first hint of this came out recently. Shelesh herself mentioned it on Kai Cenat's live stream. Said her ex-husband, Evan Young, who a lot of people know professionally as Sausage, is suing her.
Yeah, and the demands being made are, well, they're more than just staggering. They're a direct challenge to how we think about digital ownership and influencer celebrity today. Our sources say Young isn't just after the usual marital assets,
No.
He's allegedly suing for half of everything she owns and half of all future earnings, which is, monumental. And maybe most importantly, he wants control or maybe ownership of all her social media accounts, even a new channel she just started.
Wow. Half of future earnings from a channel that big. It's hard to even wrap your head around that number. But going after the social media accounts themselves, the actual digital identity, that feels like where this case really breaks new ground. How does a court even start thinking about enforcing a claim like that on future work after the relationship is obviously over?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It forces courts to look at this whole online persona, this brand, as a potentially divisible business asset, not just, her personal platform. This whole lawsuit really hangs on whether they can legally classify their relationship, their work together, as a joint venture,
Right.
which basically means a formal business partnership where both sides put in effort and expected to share the rewards equally.
Okay, so our mission today, trace that partnership's history, figure out what this joint venture legally means in this context, and then walk through the specific legal charges being used to try and, well, take apart this huge business.
Right, so to get the complexity, we need to go back to the beginning, around 2013. Lia Shelesh started making content then, mostly gaming at first, I think, and then it grew into lifestyle, cosplay, the stuff that really drove her massive growth.
Yeah, and that 2013 timing is crucial, because that's apparently when she started dating Evan Young. They met through gaming stuff, it seems. And according to the sources we have, their professional collaboration started almost right away. Young was also a content creator, Sausage, right? And the claim is he played a really big part in the channel's early days, its early success.
And this working relationship lasted 9 years until they broke up in September 2022. But the foundation, according to Young's lawsuit, was based on a pretty simple, informal agreement back then. Exactly. Young's side claims that early on, back in 2013, they had a verbal agreement, just agreed to split the ad revenue from their channels 50-50. And he alleges that deal was in place right up until they separated in 2022. So this handshake deal, supposedly lasting almost a decade, that's the bedrock of his claim now, saying he's entitled to half of this whole empire that grew out of it.
Which sets up this classic conflict, doesn't it? The person on camera versus the person or people behind the camera. Shelesh was obviously the face of SSSniperwolf. She's the personality drawing in millions of viewers.
But the lawsuit argues that the face isn't much without the structure, the creative engine behind it. And that takes us straight into the lawsuit Young filed in 2022. He calls the SSSniperwolf channel and everything associated with it a legal joint venture. Now, that term sounds formal, but it implies a partnership with shared risks, shared creative input, and importantly, shared rewards. It's basically the legal term for what loads of informal creator teams just call, working together.
What's really interesting here, though, is the lawsuit doesn't just vaguely say he helped. The court documents apparently list out, like, very specific contributions. They give this detailed breakdown of the work he says justifies him getting a 50% stake. So for anyone listening who maybe runs a side hustle or works with a creative partner, which of those things, the back-end stuff, the technical work, carries the most legal weight in a fight like this?
Well, it's likely the sheer range, the cumulative nature of his alleged involvement. The documents say he was heavily involved in the creative content and operations. And they list things that sound pretty professional, pretty strategic. Stuff like concept creation and development, script writing, directing the videos, video editing, actually posting the finished videos, doing market research and analysis. It's a long list.
So he's essentially saying, look, I wasn't just cheering her on. I was the creative director, the editor, the strategist, the producer. I helped build a system that allowed this talent to reach 35 million subscribers.
That's the entire argument, yeah. That he provided the foundation, the structure, the execution for years, all with the expectation they were building this together, 50-50. And this is why the end of the romantic relationship in September 2022 seems to have immediately blown up the professional side, too.
Right, because after they broke up romantically, Young claims Shelesh started actively trying to lock Young out of their business relationship,
Hmm.
which raises a big question. If one partner in a creator duo locks the other out of the email, the socials, the analytics,
Mm.
how do you legally undo that? What tools does someone like Young actually have to try and reclaim access or assert ownership over this digital thing that's so tied to the face of the brand?
And that's exactly where these 7 specific legal counts come into play. These are the sharpest tools in the legal box for this kind of fight. They show this is being treated like a complex corporate breakup, not just dividing up furniture.
Okay, let's walk through maybe the biggest ones, because they really show how complex it is when business law meets digital property.
Sure. The first one listed is breach of fiduciary duty. Now, that's a powerful claim in any business partnership. A fiduciary duty means one person legally owes the other a duty of trust, basically, to act in their best financial interest. So Young is claiming Shelesh, as his business partner, owed him that duty, and by locking him out, she violated it, acted against his financial interests.
Then you've got breach of contract and breach of the implied covenant of good faith fair dealing. Those sound a bit more standard, maybe.
They are standard contract terms, but they're vital here for trying to make that original 2013 verbal agreement stick, legally speaking. If the court believes a contract existed, even just spoken, to split the revenue, then breach of contract is a possible claim. And the implied covenant part backs that up. It means even if it wasn't all written down, partners are expected to act fairly towards each other, not deliberately block the other person from getting the benefit of the deal.
What about these other two? Conversion and tortious interference with contractual relations? They sound pretty serious.
They are serious claims. Conversion is basically the civil law equivalent of theft. It means wrongfully taking or using someone else's property. In this context, think intellectual property, maybe revenue that wasn't shared, or crucially, control over those social media accounts and the content they allegedly co-created. He's essentially claiming she seized his share of the business assets.
Okay, so it's not just about the money owed, it's about the digital property itself being wrongly taken.
Exactly. And tortious interference means he's claiming Shelesh actively interfered with his ability to do business or benefit from contracts he might have had, probably related to things like ad deals or sponsorships connected to the channel's operation. It's basically saying her actions hurt his future earning potential.
Okay, that leaves accounting and the appointment of receiver.
Accounting is pretty straightforward. Young wants a full breakdown of all the business finances, revenue in, expenses out over the years, so they can figure out what his half should actually be. But the appointment of receiver, that one is arguably the most revealing about how big this dispute is. You usually ask for that in major corporate fights. It's asking the court to put a neutral third party in charge, temporarily, to manage the disputed assets or business.
So asking for a receiver means they're literally asking the court to consider taking over management of the SSSniperwolf channel itself until ownership is sorted out. Wow. That really hammers home that they see this not as just a personal messy breakup, but as a fight over a valuable, ongoing, multi-million-dollar business.
And what this all boils down to, for you listening, is that this legal battle is fundamentally about how the law defines ownership. Ownership over ideas, over future money streams, and over the value of all that behind-the-scenes work, the strategy, the execution. It really is the ultimate test of face versus foundation.
Yeah, it feels like a moment of truth for the whole influencer world, doesn't it? So many creators start out informally, splitting money, sharing logins, working from the same room. But when that thing blows up to 35 million subscribers, those casual arrangements get put under the toughest microscope. And the stakes here are just mind-boggling. Half of everything, half of future earnings, and potentially control of the online identity itself.
Right, and this whole situation forces us and the courts to grapple with a really fundamental question for this digital age. When you have one person who is the clear on-screen talent, the face that everyone recognizes, and another person doing vital work behind the scenes, like the concepting, the writing, the editing, the strategy, like Young claims he did, how do courts actually assign value to those different contributions? It makes you ask, if you take away the foundation, does the face still stand up? And for creators everywhere, really, the answer the court gives in this case could set a huge precedent for how they need to structure their own partnerships, personally and professionally, to avoid exactly this kind of fight down the road.
And that question of value, how you weigh the face against the foundation, that's definitely what we'll be watching as this case moves forward.